All right, AD and I are here at Comic-Con, and we are checking out the Star Wars booth. You having fun so far? Yeah? What do you think of this place? There's a lot of stuff going on? Anything particular you found that you liked? Oh, like the Star Wars stuff. He likes the Star Wars.
So how did I get here? This all started with a Crunchlabs Hack Pack turret with this googly eye. It reminded me of a pit droid from Star Wars, and I've been sitting on a pile of Hack Pack kits kind of wondering, what else can I do with these? And then I got the balance bot, and I started playing with the IMU, and I'm like, I wonder if I could connect that to the turret. And when I did that, it sort of reminded me of an animatronic character. And I was like, it kind of reminds me of the pit droid from Star Wars. I wonder if I start connecting all these things together, what I can build. So Comic-Con was only 5 weeks away at this point, and I figured I'd start hacking. So I got out the parts from various Hack Pack kits and started pulling stuff together to see what I could make. The first few days went well. I pulled out some of these servos from the turret, I routed them into the bot, and I started playing with them to see if they would make good arms and good heads. I found some open source files as well as some existing projects for making a pit droid, but that wasn't really made to be a puppet, and it wasn't really meant to work quite like this. So I started modifying the CAD from those into something that would work for my needs. I started connecting it to the various libraries from the Arduino, and then everything kind of came to a grinding halt, because once I connected the IMU, the LED control, the servo control, and everything else, I was over at 103% of program storage. And the Nano only has 30 kilobytes of flash. So I needed to pivot. I went to the Hack Pack Discord, had some lovely conversations there with folks who recommended me switching from a Nano to an ESP32, and specifically the ESP32 Nano because it already matched the pinouts I was using. And I figured, okay, let's give this a shot. I ordered one and got to work on the next phase of this. What I quickly learned was that a ESP32 uses entirely different libraries than an Arduino Nano. So I actually ended up needing to redo quite a bit of my code to make all of this work, as well as it also runs on 3.3 volt logic, not 5 volt, and everything I had built so far was expecting 5 volts. So I ended up needing to do dual power rails, and that also then hit me with 3 different problems at once. The servos wanted 5 volt signals. The NeoPixel LEDs refused to initialize at 3.3 volts. I tried a MOSFET, I tried a level shifter, neither worked. The servo library, the IR library, and the audio module all had to be replaced, reconfigured for the ESP32, and getting the pin mapping and the GPIO pins to work was a lot of trial and error. I was also experimenting with pulley systems for the arms and how I would use those before I ended up going with geared direct drive. Solving the NeoPixel problems took me about a week. Turns out I needed a specific Texas Instruments chip that has a quad bus buffer and 5 connections, and once I put that chip in, the LEDs lit up and I never had to touch that circuit again, and we were back in action. Also in week 2, I made the call to change the whole physical design, of changing it from being a shoulder-mounted project to being mounted into a tool bag that I would wear on my body with a shoulder strap. This gave me room for a whole lot of electronics and things, and the whole lower half of his torso ended up not being used and replaced with a mounting system that would hold the breadboard, the batteries, and everything below. Part of my control system used the same joysticks that we have in the Hack Pack tape label maker. I used that to be able to control his arms while using the IMU to control his head. Week 3 also brought rewiring, painting, priming, weathering, as well as my first walk-around test, just walking around the house, just seeing how this thing would hold together. And I learned quickly that I needed to make the whole thing a lot more sturdy if this was going to be able to survive at Comic-Con. It's also the first time the puppet really started to feel alive. Up till then, the servo movements were kind of limited. But once you really start to see this thing come to life, the character was there. It really started to feel like its own personality. And when you hid the control from people, it felt like a really interactive puppet. And the IR antenna from the turret actually played a great role of adding secondary motion, as well as an IR input for the actual bot. I decided to also take it on a walk. I did a 2-mile circuit around my neighborhood to see how well this would hold up for trying to walk around all day at Comic-Con. Certainly had some wiring issues and some reboots, and learned a lot from doing it, but it held up all right. I also had the opportunity to go to the amazing Henson Puppet Show Puppet Up, where I got a chance to talk to some of the puppeteers about the fine art of puppeting characters. I explained to them my project and started to go through, well, what do I need to do and learn to be able to effectively puppet this guy and make him come to life? And their advice was invaluable. I really learned just the basics of picking their brain of how do you bring a character to life and draw attention to the puppet and not you. One of the magical things I wanted to do with this project was to be able to go completely hands-free at times and have him just do ambient pre-programmed animations. Now, I do like animating, and I can, but also we were only a week out from Comic-Con at this point. So I decided to build myself a motion capture pipeline where I did single camera vision capture of me, can use Python scripts to convert those into animation, and then convert that down into files into the C library that he could read and play back directly onto the servos. So here you can see me doing motion capture with the droid and the droid doing the same thing playing back. This allowed me to also synchronize really fun musical performances. As with any project, there were a lot of late nights coding and just really pushing this thing to make it solid and make it work. You know, kind of the joy of doing projects like this is seeing people's happiness in the result, but what they don't see and don't really think about is the sheer number of hours that it takes putting into building these things. It still is pretty fun, though. Here you can see his nearly final form, his frame to hold the electronics, the prototype buttons before I put some housings that were themed around him, but he has his final paint job, and he's able to play back animations based on the button clicks in IR, look around and interact. I added some weathering based on some tutorials, as well as just some experience in painting Dungeons & Dragons minis, and really gave him some fun life and some fun color and kind of made him his own character.
His name's 80.
Greetings, 80. I am Dalek Fax.
Oh, he asked if it's your first Comic-Con.
It is my first Comic-Con. I'm having so much fun exterminating everyone.
It's 80's too. He says it's his first Comic-Con too.
That is wonderful.